Okay, welcome everyone. Today we have presenting our webinar, 5 in 5 Bright Ideas, Quick Takeaways, and I'd like to introduce you to our moderator, Kelly McCutcheon.
Hey everybody, hey friends, thank you so much for being here and being a part of 5 in 5. This webinar originated from our upcoming conference in Orlando, where we have some phenomenal breakout speakers prepared to present these incredible workshops. And we asked some of them if they had a quick takeaway that they could share from their entire breakout, and that's where this originated. So think of this as your sneak peek to all the goodness that you'll get if you attend the conference in Orlando. Again, this conference is being put on by CHART, the Council of Hotel and Restaurant Trainers, and we have over 600 members, and we're a 50-year plus organization. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's just a great place to network, to learn, to skill up my career and competencies, and just make lifelong friends. So really excited to be presenting this for you all today. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce our first bright idea from James Frank, Area Leader of Training for Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. So without further ado, take it away, James.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Yes, I am excited about the bright idea I am sharing with all of you today in creating a communication board. And I have had the awesome opportunity to see how it reflects culture and impacts retention in our restaurants. And quite honestly, it's simple and fun. So all you need to do is purchase a bulletin board or a dry erase board, and then you find some wall space in your office building, hotels, restaurants, where you know your employees will be able to see. Then you have some of your employees actually be a part of bringing the fun to life. So let's take a look at some of the communication boards that I have seen while visiting some Raising Cane's restaurants. Next slide, please. As you see in these first two examples, you can see that the first one was built with both communication to bring to the employees. There is some flyers on here to show that they have an opportunity to make some money by recruiting a friend to the company, some safety meeting notes, but the best part, they are celebrating their employees who just graduated. How fun to take little simple diplomas and graduation hats and put them over their pictures. That's really fun. Now, in the second example, you can see it's around Valentine's Day. So it was all about sharing the love. And in this case, they wanted to share all the awesome employees who had been recently promoted into new positions. In this case, they're sharing out some new bird specialists and some of our certified trainers. So let's look at our next examples. On this one, I just always laugh when I see this one on the left. This particular restaurant, the employees decided we just had several employees get promoted into the position of bird specialist. Let's share that celebration. And they simply took some feathers and little chickens and put it around their board. Now, what's great about these boards is you could change them every period, quarterly, however you like. Now, the next one is really fun. They turned theirs into kind of a competition to have some fun at their restaurant. At Raising Cane's, we name each restaurant specifically around the area that they are in or something that happened. And in this case, this particular restaurant opened in the parking lot where they actually filmed a scene in the movie Back to the Future. So their restaurant nickname is The Future. So the crew decided to gather up a bunch of old photos of them when they were little babies and kids, and then take some photos of them currently, and they had to identify who was who on this board. Now that just is fun in the making. Next slide, please. So on these two boards, they're very different as well. On the left, you can see this particular location decided there was a lot of communication that they wanted to focus on, yet they still found a way to make their board fun. In this example, this one was built around the LGBTQ Pride Month, and it still shows pertinent information that's important for all the employees to know. And in my last example, you can see this is communication and celebration as well. They gave some shout outs to some people who were talked about in some of their surveys they received. It shows that they're having an awesome crew appreciation picnic coming up and to allow people to sign up. Then there's some balloons and cupcakes where they are celebrating the crew members' birthdays, anniversaries. So all in all, what a great way to just simply bring some fun for a quick moment in, like I said, your offices, your hotels, your restaurants, for your employees to get communication, but have fun doing it. So I hope you enjoyed this bright idea. And now it is my pleasure to bring on the next presenter, my amazing friend, Ashley HELKENN. Ashley, take it away.
Thank you, James. That was great info and engagement and collaboration, and I love seeing all that fun. Love it. I'm going to talk to y'all. My name is Ashley HELKENN. I am a director of training for BONCHON Korean fried chicken, and I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about body language. So let's jump right in. Hospitality trainers are notoriously curious folk, and so I'm sure that many of you have often wondered, what do these two things have in common? Being chased by a bear and working in hospitality. It's something that keeps us all up at night. It's an intriguing question, and the answer is a lot. It actually has a lot in common. And basically it all boils down to fear, which is weird to have fear in restaurants, but let's explain. We know from years of research that all negative emotions except for sadness have a fear base. So irritation, annoyance, anger, confusion, misunderstanding, disappointment, all of that have a fear base. And science also tells us a lot about what happens in the body when we experience fear. And 5 things happen, a lot of things happen, but there's 5 that we're concerned with. And if we're being chased by a bear, they happen super quick. If our emotions happen slower, like in a restaurant or a hotel or in a meeting, they go a little bit slower. But in order, the way it happens is your pupils dilate, your heart rate increases, your breath speeds up, the blood moves to the core of your body, and your digestive system slows down. And so I'm sure you're probably wondering what in the world this has to do with hospitality and why it's important. And the big deal is that human bodies react to fear, whether it's being chased by a bear or being upset that your food's taking too long, being frustrated with a coworker, or when you're in meetings and you aren't getting your vision across to a stakeholder that you need on your side. And so knowing how to read the signs of fear, both in ourselves and in others, can help us guide others back to a good headspace. And it probably won't help you when you're being chased by a bear, but in other situations, it's pretty helpful. So what can you do to make an impact? Well, there's 2 things you can do. The first thing is to start with ourselves, right? We need to focus inwards. We know that fear is contagious, and if our fear isn't in check, we can't be effective with others. So we can start by being aware of how we're reacting. Do we feel our pulse rising? Are we getting jittery? This helps us also control our tone and how we're coming across to others. The next thing is to control and slow our breath. Of the 5 reactions we mentioned, your breath is the only one that you can actively control. So controlling and slowing our breath tells our body to slow down some of the other signs of fear. And then being aware of our breath when we're dealing with someone who's upset can also help us pause and think through next steps more thoughtfully. And then it's important to stay aware of how we feel. When we show up in control, it's easier to sell something. And whether that's a dessert, it's a solution to a problem, or it's an initiative that we need a sponsor for, it's the first step really in selling that idea. The next thing we can do is we can focus on the signs of uncertainty in others. So we can go to the next slide. This allows us to spot what's going on in other people and respond accordingly. Most of us remember our early days in hospitality, and there were a list of body language cues that said, go check on a guest. So they were looking around, they were tapping their finger, picking at their food. All of that stuff told us to go check on guests. And all of those subtle cues work exactly the same in any work situation. So if you're working with upset team members, or if you're in a meeting, or you're trying to sell an idea, keep an eye out for all of those. So know to spot the cues of when someone's getting upset or feeling uneasy. listen to what they say, not just the words that come out of their mouth, but also their body language. And then address concerns with calm, always stay calm. And that goes back to noticing the reactions in ourselves. It works with guests, it works with team members, and it definitely works in meetings. And it's all about hearing, whether we hear with our ears or our eyes, what other people are telling us. It gives us a chance to respond appropriately. And it definitely helps us correct issues while they're small before they blow up into big issues that are much more difficult. That's my bright idea. I'm excited next to pass it off to Kathy Harris and hear her bright idea.
Let me get my, there we go. Hi, everybody. Ashley, thank you so much. And that was a brilliant idea. And it's funny because that's what we were just talking about with our loss prevention officers, emotional intelligence and resilience. So great idea. So first of all, I'm the corporate director of learning and development for PCH Hotels and Resorts in Alabama. So just really excited to be here. It's hard for me to stay to 5 minutes, but I will. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to share is during this 5-minute presentation, you're going to learn one of the 8, not the number 8, but the ATE, one of the 8 of the 6 verbs that you need to use to energize new hire performance, to help your new hires transition from a learner to an engaged and effective and motivated team contributor in a shorter amount of time. Next slide, please. A few years ago, when you let people know, hey, we chose you, you're hired, and people were excited. Oh, I got the job. They would tell their friends, etc. But so, they couldn't wait for their first day. Next slide, please. Here's our world now, because people have so many choices with employers and the type of job that they do. So the response has changed. And so everything we do in learning and operations provides that new associate, that new employee with moments of truth. Every moment of truth that they have from their first day is their lasting impression of who you are as an organization. So that's why it's so important to pay attention to those moments of truth and create some excitement and with your new team members. Okay, next slide. So these 8s, okay, motivate, inculcate, celebrate, integrate, elevate. The one we are going to focus on today is motivate. Click. There it is. Woo, look at that. All right. But this is a model that we can use. But we can't just put our learning objectives. Here's your learning plan and say, okay, here you go. And put them with somebody that's, been in the job for a while. That's typically how we've done things in our industry. So what I'm sharing today is just one part of a learning model that can be used in hotels and restaurants and for any position. Okay, next slide, please. So we need to focus on how to make the menial meaningful. So the example I'm sharing right now is with housekeeping. I spent several months with our housekeeping leadership teams to find ways to motivate the housekeepers. What was happening is, the person that would be training that housekeeper would say, you got to make a bed in 6 minutes. All right. So instead of saying, this is what you have to do, what you do is you create a leaderboard. Now, it would be great to have this as technology that's available to kind of track how you're doing. But, in housekeeping, a lot of our employees don't have access to the digital technology. So for this example, now they do use digital technology for their training that they can access 24/7. But in this example, this is a big poster that's on the wall. And what you do first is you have your very best people that can make the bed the fastest, put their time up there. And then that's the mark. That's what everybody is striving for. And make it fun, make it gamification, and then let them put times. And so the other examples are, how many rooms you can clean in a shift, how many rooms are passing inspection. And if you're, for example, in the restaurant industry, for example, pizza. Okay, I was in a pizza organization for a while. How many pizza boxes can you fold and have a competition? Find your hoorays. Find your ways to make it fun. and put it on a board. You want to have leaderboards. That's what gamification is all about, leaderboards. And, you know, I did a lot of research on the Peloton theory and why people, 97% of people will stay with Peloton. I'm one of those people, and I'll kill myself for a badge from Peloton. And, you know, the prizes can be simple. They can be little stickers, little candy, you know, their favorite treats. But the thing is to make it meaningful. Find out what people like when we're rewarding them. All right, next slide, please. And making the menial meaningful can substantially reduce burnout, increase retention, engagement, and enhance connection to your organization's culture. You can also increase the likelihood that your employees will recommend your company to their friends and family. A year study of this and the other 5-8 verbs has resulted in our company, has resulted in improved performance, reduced labor cost, and increased retention of employees. We've even had some employees come back because they heard that you know, it's a lot more fun, a lot more engaging. And so some people have come back. And so, you know, we've had a year study on this and it's working, and we're cascading this model, not just in housekeeping, but in food and beverage. We're also going to be working on the front desk. What are your 8s? And so looking forward to seeing you in Orlando. This is just one of the 8s. You got to motivate people, right? Oh yeah. Oh, thank you for that ta-da comment. That's what I learned when we were in Austin. I can't remember who facilitated that, but the ta-da, you know, you got to find your ta-das. Okay. So here's how this works. So when the new associate starts, they don't know what they don't know. But then as they start to transition to know what they know, click. All right, give them a badge, give them a badge, give them a prize, right? You want to celebrate those small successes along the way. Exactly right behavior is made up of partially right behavior as people progress in that learning process. All right, next slide. And having fun at work energizes performance and it improves attention spans by releasing reward, learning, and thinking hormones such as dopamine and norepinephrine. I practiced that word for this one. But when connected to the other 8 steps of energizing learning performance that I'll present in Orlando, the results are improved memory, retention, and efficiency. Okay, next slide. So to conclude, historically in our industry, and I've been in this industry for 30 years, leading learning and development for 30 years, it's for was follow me and do as I do. Then we started transitioning to e-learning, and then we, you know, so we had everything in e-learning, but you know, there's no magic wand that's going to motivate your people. It's the 8 steps that are going to motivate your people. So thank you for listening. Now I'm going to turn it over to one of my professional peers from the beautiful coastal southeastern area of the US, Kate STITELER, Director of Training for SONESTA Hotels in New Orleans. Kate has partnered with me during 2023 during one of our regional training forums. So Kate, I'm turning it over to you. Thank you,
Kathy. It was a real pleasure to not only partner with you, but following you up is always, this is my second time doing it. It's always so darn hard. So next time I'm requesting to go in front of Kathy, okay? So hi, everybody. In my chart, 5 minutes for fresh thinking, excuse me, I want to talk to you about how you welcome people with a wow. So if you go to the next slide, please. We are adopting and have adopted something at SONESTA, which we're calling the rule of 6. All right. So when you hire somebody, I'm not talking about recruiting, we're moving into retention now. When you hire somebody, from the moment they are hired with you, there are some critical milestones that you have to meet. And you've got to meet all of these, because if you miss some of them, people start to make decisions about whether joining you was the right decision from the first few seconds they're there. So, you know, we have these 6 critical points. We call them the first 6 seconds, 6 minutes, 6 hours, 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months. And if you hit these things at 100%, you have a greater likelihood that people are going to stay with you. Now, here's the thing. A lot of these things seem really simple. All right. I'm going to say things like, hey, you should meet people at the door whenever they start. Seems like a no-brainer. Shake hands. Seems like a no-brainer. But here's the thing. We miss these things all of the time. As I go through, I challenge you to think of some times where you've hired somebody and you said, oh, you know what, maybe their first 6 minutes weren't what they could have been. Maybe I should be doing these in their first 6 months, right? We miss these things all the time because we're busy. We might assume somebody else would do them, or we just don't have a sort of organized approach to what happens when somebody first walks in the door, right? So one of the things I will tell you is we use a document at SONESTA, and I have actually made a blank document, and I believe it's going to be included whenever they put out this recording. There'll be a link to that blank document so you can actually fill one out yourself. Because again, if you don't have something to follow, you're going to miss these things. And again, these things are critical as a person decides whether they're going to stay with you or not. So next slide, please. The first thing you do before you even start creating this document is to ask yourself what's really, really important to a new hire, right? So a lot of us are really proud, you know, we've got this great orientation PowerPoint, or like, we're really organized with our paperwork, you know, nobody cares. Nobody cares how nice your PowerPoint is in the very beginning, right? There's a lot of other things that they do care about, right? So you've got to start thinking about these things. First, have you created a document around what you're going to do at critical milestones? Second, have you started thinking, you know, do you have your checklist ready? Have you scheduled them with people, right? Do they have access to all the systems they need? Do you have their uniform, their name tag, all those things? So you've got to do some prep, but whenever they get there, the real kind of show starts for them. So next slide, please. So in the first 6 seconds, this is critical. Again, you know, we've all heard that, you know, well played out expression, you know, don't get a second chance at a first impression. Well, you definitely don't with a new hire either. And they're going to decide from the minute they walk in the door the first time for their first shift, whether this is right for them. So you got to be there. You got to be there at the door, at your employee entrance, at the door to your hotel or the door to your restaurant, wherever they come in. You need to be there, and you need to be there 10 minutes before they're supposed to show up. All right. You got to be there, and think about the message that you send if you're not there. Think about the message you send if they have to sit around and wait for somebody, anybody, they don't know, right? So you got to be there. Greet them with a handshake, a fist bump, a high five. I don't care what it is, but a little bit of personal connection is really critical. You know, when you welcome them, make sure you give them a little something, right? Like I think all of us have been working in this long enough to know that we all have a bunch of branded stuff. Give them a branded something. Give them some of your swag. And if you don't have swag, get something made at Vistaprint, or give them a nice mug that says, hey, Mondays, you know, whatever it is, right? So give them something that says from that first minute, I was here, I was so excited to see you, I was waiting for you. And here's something that says from the minute, I'm so glad you're here. Next slide, please. You move into the first 6 minutes. You know, I've certainly done, and in past lives been part of orientations where somebody comes in and we bring them into one space and we say, welcome, we do it around the room. And then we say, let's tell you about the history of the company. They don't care. They don't care in the first 6 minutes of that. They're interested. They don't care what year that your property was built, how many seats your restaurant has. They're interested in the stuff that matters most to them. Like, where are the bathrooms? If they have an office, where's my office? Or if they don't, where's the secure place where I can put my purse, my bag, my phone, my keys, right? Talk about the things that really matter to them in those first 6 minutes, and do yourself a favor, offer them something to drink at least, right? Do you want a bottle of water? Do you want a cup of coffee? People are really nervous and oftentimes don't know what to do with themselves. And so handing somebody a bottle of water is, I think, really critical. It gives them something to do with their hands. And also, if they're nervous, taking a sip here. Next slide, please. Well, the first 6 hours are when you can really start that formal orientation time, right? Like, this is where you're going to take them on the property tour. Again, show them the places that matter to them. Where's the employee entrance? Where's the places that they're going to be working? And then branch out from that. Show them where the time clock is. Again, show them where the nearest bathroom to their department is. You know, this is where I like to tell people funny stories about, like, you know, during orientation, it's not just about like, here's our history, here's our culture, you know, tell them some funny stories. Like when I was working at the Royal SONESTA Hotel, New Orleans, which is right on Bourbon Street. I'm sure you've all heard the song Truckin' by the Grateful Dead. And they said, busted down on Bourbon Street. That was at our hotel. So I love to tell that story, and it really gets people kind of excited. Oh, celebrity, I've heard that song before. Have you had a celebrity that dined with you? These are funny stories that you can tell. I also like to make sure in that first 6 hours, they're scheduled very intentionally. Make sure that they're there either for a stand-up meeting or another meeting where you can bring them in and introduce them to people. You can start talking about your expectations. And things like, again, the stuff that matters to them, how they can request off from work, how to best communicate with you as their manager. Are you a text person? Do you prefer a phone call? Is there a time when both is appropriate? So talk about those expectations. You can start, again, continuing on with your PowerPoints, your culture, that kind of stuff, and give them their schedule. At the end of the day, make sure on that first day that you're connected. Even if you're not leading all of the activities or taking them on the tour, you as the leader are coming back to them and saying, hey, again, Kate, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to see you on Wednesday, which is your first scheduled shift. Thank you again. You're shaking hands. You're moving on. The first 6 days, if you go to the next slide, this is where you're going to really intentional about that scheduled training. I think that a lot of us have some designated trainer programs. And even if you don't, making sure that, again, in that free time before they start, you're figuring out who they're going to be scheduled with. Try to schedule them with the same person as often as you can. Again, I know it sounds like a no-brainer, but I'm sorry. I've worked for companies where we've had designated trainer programs and they say, oh, our designated trainer was off or doesn't work that shift. Well, don't schedule them on that then, right? Just because you have it doesn't mean you might be doing it the right way. So revisit that with your trainers. Make sure that they're using checklists. If you don't have some, make some. Even if they're rudimentary, it gives you a system to follow, and then hand them a copy of that checklist so they know exactly what they're getting as well. They can take it home. They can show their friends, study it. They won't do that, but either way, they'll have it, right? And then again, you as the leader in this first 6 days, you should be doing daily touch points with them. How has your training been going? It doesn't have to take longer than 3 to 5 minutes, right? How is your training going? Can I answer any questions? Again, I'm shaking hands. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. We're so glad you're here. Next slide. And then really you're on the first 6 months. And if you can bring them to 6 months, I think we all know that the likelihood of them leaving within a year drastically dips, right? You can look at a ton of statistics about that. So the first 6 months for you as a leader, now they're trained, they're doing their job, they're probably working independently, but you're not done with them, right? They still need to know that you're there for support and care. And so you're going in, you're observing things. Maybe you want to do an internal mystery shop. Maybe you want to challenge them on a couple things and help them grow in a safe and supportive way. You or another manager should be doing monthly check-ins for this first 6. So again, first 6 days, we're doing a daily check-in. After that, first month, once a month, you're going to sit down and talk about this. Second month, once a month, you're going to sit down. How are you doing? I want to know that I'm here to support you, that kind of thing. And hey, after they've been there for 6 months, they might have some great ideas for you. Ask them. They might be willing to talk about their next step with you. If they've made it this long, it might be more likely. So again, I know that some of these things that I've talked about in this rule of 6 seem pretty simplistic, but think about how many times when you've started somewhere new that they've been missed. Or think about somewhere where you've had somebody hired and maybe you were too busy and you missed some of them themselves. Again, these are critical milestones. And if you hit them in closing, you can really make sure that these people stay with you a little bit longer. So thank you very much. And I will turn it over to Kelly.
Hey, thank you so much, Kate. That was awesome. And I hope you're starting to see that not only are these like brief blasts of really fresh thinking and bright ideas, but there is a connection here as well, right? Ways that we attract, celebrate, motivate, and retain amazing team members. And I think one of the themes that is circulated around all of these ideas is the idea of all of the decisions that we have to make, right? I think Kate said it best. What are you going to do in your first 6 minutes, for example, or who do I hire? And so we're faced with, I've seen a statistic that says up to 35,000 decisions every day. And while some of those are very simple, like you all have made the decision to join us on this call and to stick with us or type in the chat or what to wear or what to eat for breakfast, we're also faced as professionals in our industry with some of those big decisions. And oftentimes it can be difficult to make decisions, especially on a team. There are, different factors at play, the emotions of the situation. Maybe we don't have all the facts. Maybe people are championing for their side. And that can even happen in our own heads, right? So I'm here to teach you a quick technique that can help you and your teams make better decisions. And this technique is called the 6 thinking hats. And this comes from Edward de Bono. He was a physician and a psychologist and an author. As you can see, his book is right there. And he came up with this theory about lateral thinking. And this was actually created in 1986. So, you know, sometimes we think about these books as like, oh, it must have been in the, you know, well, I guess that was the last century, but you know what I mean? So essentially, this is an idea where one at a time, you metaphorically put on these different hats representing a different way of thinking to help you come to the best conclusion. So you can do this by yourself. And I recommend kind of free form brainstorming, but again, only one hat at a time, because the hats don't actually like each other. They would compete with each other. So you have to take them one at a time. And you can do this in groups as well. So if you have a small group, I would recommend everybody put on the same hat at the same time, right? So let's talk through what the white hat represents or what the red hat represents. Or if you have a large group, you can break people up into groups and give each group one hat or one way of thinking and ask them to come back and present to the larger group. You can go in any order, but this is the order that I recommend when it comes to decision making. So first up, we have our white hat. And this represents data. So I like to think of a hacker in a white hoodie, and actually white hat is a term for an ethical hacker, someone that businesses pay to see if they can break into their systems to help make it more ironclad. And so during this part of the brainstorming session with that problem, you're asking, what can I learn from the facts and the trends? What information do we have? And maybe what information do we not have? And again, during this brainstorm, there are no wrong answers. There's no, hey, that won't work. We let the ideas free flow as we go. So once you've made it through the data and the white hat, then we put on our red hat. And this is all about feelings, right? And again, we're taking this from a neutral, objective standpoint. So we're gonna lean into Ashley's bright idea, and we're gonna control our breath and you know, kind of look at that from the third person and not get into the feelings. But we want to talk through those emotions, right? If I'm making a decision, like, gosh, should I buy grandma's getting up there in age, I could buy her house and move in and take care of her. One of the things I want to consider is, what are the cousins going to feel about that? What, you know, how are mom and dad going to feel about that, right? So I'm starting to talk through the emotions that I might have in the situation and the emotions that others might have. But again, without judgment and just in that neutral brainstorming, no bad ideas mentality. Once we've worked through our feelings, next we're going to look at risk. And so this, we're putting on a black hat. And and by the way, I referenced Mario because I think about going back to Mario here, you know, what is his number one goal, right? He's looking for his princess. He's following his heart. And so that's how I remember the red hat is all about feelings. So here we have a graduate, right, with their black cap on. And I like to think, you know, right after graduation, I'm at a crossroads, right? I have to make a decision. What am I going to do with the rest of my life, or at least the next 6 months? And so I have to be aware of what contingency plans I may need as I head out into the real world. And this is that moment in the brainstorming process to think through those contingency plans. What are our watch outs? What are our cautions? And this may be the most powerful of all of the hats that we wear. So it's really important to take that with a dose of caution, right? To give it the same amount of time that you give the other hats, so that we don't lean into the risk. As humans, we're really, really good in general at looking at risk. You know, I'll ask people, hey, you just gave me a dining experience. What do you think about, how did you do? What did you do well? And people so much easier can tell me where they need to improve versus spending time talking about where they went well, right? So, so this hat may come with ease as we talk about risk, because we're used to saying, well, that won't work because of this. Well, that won't work because of this. So give it the time that it's due. It definitely belongs in the decision-making process, but it's not meant to be a dead end for all of your bright ideas. That's why we do this hat third, because we follow it with the yellow hat. And this is about optimism and bright side. And so I think about Curious George wearing the yellow man, the man with the yellow the man with the yellow hat. Say that 5 times fast. And so you can see that smile on his face, right? He's looking at the most optimistic viewpoint. So after we've talked about mitigating risk, what are the best possible things that could happen from making a decision around this idea? You know, what are the positives? What are the values? What are all those bright sides that could come out of it? After that part of brainstorming, we've got 2 hats left. So next we have the green hat, and this is creativity. So after we've brainstormed all the positives, let's go out of the box. What's the most creative thing that we can think of? And I like to relate to Lucky here, you know, always trying to keep his Lucky Charms from the kids, right? So he has to think creatively in that way. And so, you know, when you put this cap on, you're thinking about new ideas and possibilities. And what's amazing is when you come together as a group and you're all working on that, you can compound those ideas. So something that someone else says may spark an idea in you that you didn't even know you had. So as our last hat, and finally we put on the blue hat, and this is about order and process. So I like to think of the Queen's hat, right? And bringing that regal order and structure and process. So you basically have to say, okay, hats, we've had all these, you know, great ideas, and now it's time to figure out what's going to work. What new things came out of this? You know, it's time to bring it to conclusion. So again, if you're struggling with an idea, and oftentimes when we work on strategy or those big things of what do we do with our business? You know, where do we put our money? Should we hire that person? Often those really big decisions warrant the time to go through and brainstorm, and we often have to make quick decisions. And so this can be a really quick activity, but all too often, I think what we do is we brainstorm all the possibilities, and then what happens? We try to do all of them, right? So sometimes you know, yeah, oh, here's our retention plan. We can do this idea and that idea and this one. Okay, cool, let's go do it. Well, because we have a limited amount of time, effort, energy, money, and so on, we can't spread that out to all of those ideas. And so sometimes the biggest decision we have to make is what specific few things to do and what not to do. And so again, this tactic can really help you make those tough decisions. So as a wrap up there, you know, this is a technique that's super easy to learn and implement. Ultimately, it does make your meetings shorter and more energized. It reduces meeting times because your meetings become more efficient. It keeps egos in check, right? When we're talking about feelings, it's kind of like that asking for a friend. It's not talking about how I feel. It's just objectively analyzing things from a neutral brainstorming point. It helps you spot new opportunities and maybe look through angles that you wouldn't have otherwise. And then ultimately, because everyone gets the chance to collaborate, it's going to improve the buy-in that you get from that decision making, so that once a decision is made, your team is walking away from that unified. So I hope the next time you're faced with a big decision, whether individually or as a team, you think of the 6 thinking hats as a way to present some out of the box thinking. So as we work to wrap up, and here we are just almost right on time, like we said, we're gonna turn it over to questions at 1:45. I want to ask the group 2 things. One of my favorite quotes is, without reflection, there is no learning. And so I'd love to ask this group, what is one quick takeaway that you have from these bright ideas, and share it in the chat so that we can benefit from your reflection. For me, my bright idea was that I'm taking away from this is Kate's idea of what happens in the first 6 minutes, right? It just, as simple as it is, it just blew my mind to think, man, we always lead with the history and the culture because those are the things that are important to us, but it's not necessarily what's important to them, right? So I'm walking away with that. And then likewise, if you have any questions, I'll scroll through the chat as well, and we can open that up. So panelists, if you would like to turn your cameras back on as we start to wrap, again, I would just remind you where we started here, which is these are gleams of ideas that came from the upcoming chart conference. And if you aren't already, we'd love for you to join us. As you can see here, it's July 29th through August 1st in beautiful, sunny, and probably not quite as hot as where I am in San Antonio, Orlando, Florida. We have some phenomenal keynotes lined up. And of course, it's a great networking and learning opportunity to check out some of the, some of the industry hot topics that are going on right now: leadership development, AI, strategy, retention, all those things that are top of mind for us in the industry. And as a final reminder, if you are interested in joining us at the conference and you haven't registered yet, we did just end early registration, but you can get that discounted rate by emailing Tara. And Tara, just to make sure, is that Tara@chart.org?
That's right. It's just Tara at
All
chart.
right. Fantastic. Well, let's take a scroll here and just see messages, and if we have any questions. None of us are as smart as all of us. I love that, Robert. That's great. The swag idea, absolutely. That's a great one. It doesn't take much, does it? So just that little, like, hey, we thought of you, we got you this. People just want to be thought of. Oh, thanks for including that in the chat there, Tara, to get the discounted rate. It's right there. Here with your eyes. That's a good one, Kristen. Yeah. 6 seconds like me, for sure. I thought I saw a question in there. So panelists, if you see it, let me know. I'm going to scan through one.
Kelly, there is one question that's actually in the Q&A chat, and it says, how do you strategize hiring in competitive states?
Well, I know several of you spoke about retention or motivation. So I'll open it up to the panel. Thank you for chiming in with that. How do you strategize hiring in competitive states?
So I don't mind sharing something right off the bat. We've got a lot of actually all of our brands. We've got a representative from all of our brands in the Atlanta area, and they were all feeling the pinch like we all are. And so those hotels, and I know many of you have clusters of your restaurants and or lodging areas, too. Those hotels decided, and they were all different brands, like I said, full service, focused, or select service, whatever you want to call it. And they did hiring blitzes together, where they opened up at one hotel and had all of their representatives there. And then they did everything there. They went from first interview, oh, we liked you on the first interview, we're going to send you immediately for your background check, right? Like, to do your background check paperwork, we're going to offer you a conditional offer of hire on this day, as long as the background check gets started, and we'll have you start tomorrow. So they did, and they all got together, right? They took turns interviewing, they did all of that, and I think they hired, I know one of my colleagues is on the call, so don't call me out, Kristen, if I'm wrong on this number, but I want to say they hired over 30 people in a day. So they pooled their resources.
That's great.
I can share out one thing too that we do at Raising Cane's. I know several of us mentioned in the chat about the swag idea and stuff. And as you think of onboarding people, we actually created an onboarding Raising Cane's bag that each restaurant gets. And in this bag, it's all the paperwork and some swag. But one of the most important things I think we put in there that really supports culture and retention is a flyer of what we call our crew member journey. It shows them the opportunities and the path to get there. And that's really supported our retention. So just an idea to share out.
That's great, James. I was going to chime in as well that I think about recruiting and hiring a lot like matchmaking, right? It's really important that both sides fit together like a puzzle piece. And so I would encourage you to know what your competitive advantage is. We focus on our core values to hire directly from that. And because I think I would wager that it's not difficult necessarily to find people in competitive markets. It's difficult to keep people in competitive markets. And so one of the reasons for that, I think, is that it's a mismatch. And so if you know what's uniquely you about your brand, and then you attract people that are looking for that, whether it's, a particular type of benefit or incentive, flexible work hours or gig job, or, whatever that competitive advantage is, and then make sure that you broadcast that is, and then deliver on it. Right. And when those two things come together, we even heard, Kathy talking about how, I think it was Kathy talking about how some people came back after they heard you were incorporating some gamification, right? And so knowing what's uniquely you, I think is essential.
And another thing too is, it doesn't have to be asked or at the, the recruiting level or HR level. I'll tell you, some of your best things for retention are going to come right from the front line. So we've had people take team pictures. They take a picture of the team and they send a text to that new hire. So it's even before they come in the door. We are so excited that you're coming to our team. Here's all of us. We just want, and then say who's who on the team, and then let them say, ask us any questions before your first day. We'll answer them for you, but we can't wait till you get here. And then just take a crazy fun picture.
I love that. We work with our franchise partners and encourage them to be good stewards in their community, to get their name out, to meet people, that not to wait on people to come to them, but to have their reputation out, that they care about the community, they're invested in the community, and it makes it much more personal when someone does come in.
Looks like we have another question in here as well. This is, what strategies are managers using to ensure that training of staff actually happens and gets worked into the day when there's so much else going on at the location? Wow, that sounds like it could be a whole breakout in and of itself. But does anybody have something that they would want to chime in there?
A good learning management system. And, we systems is really expensive, and there are some learning management systems, and I'll talk about them when I'm in Orlando, but there are some that are really cost effective, and they're based on the number of associates that you have. But that helps to track, who's completed what. Even if you're using, like in housekeeping, they still have to use a paper evaluation. But once they're done, it gets recorded in the learning management system, because they can't walk around with a laptop, with their housekeeping carts, etc. So a good learning management system.
We talk a lot about, it's not that they don't know to do it, they don't know how to get it done. And so we have our opening checklist, and we include it in the opening checklist to check in on trainees, to look at your hiring, so that it becomes part of a routine and it doesn't have to be something they add to memory when it does happen.
Yeah, and I think just to echo that, like, one of the things that we unfortunately moved away from during the pandemic, I think that a lot of us did things differently during the pandemic, but we moved away from using checklists. And right now we're resurfacing those, and people ask, people come to us and they say, do you have onboarding checklists? Do you have something? Because even if it, again, as I said in my presentation, even if it's just fairly rudimentary, like, making sure that they have something to follow, and then making sure that there's a space where the trainee and the trainer both check off, so there's an accountability piece, I think is really big. And then also, when you're making those checklists, to make sure that they are action oriented. So you're not saying something like, understands our security policy, right? Like, you can't measure understand, but can explain our security policy. And so writing them in a way that you can actually make sure that the task is being done, and then having something that you can upload somewhere, either to your LMS or somewhere in your computer systems, I think is really big.
We have another question, and I'll chime in with that as well. But just to wrap up the previous question, one of the things I'm obsessed with is, how do we know? And I think that's the heart of what you're asking, right? How do we know onboarding is happening? How do we know people are getting the information? How do we know that somebody can cook a perfect fry? How do we know that you can check in somebody or make a bed or whatever how do we know? I ask myself that question and I ask others that question over and over throughout the course of the day. And a couple of ways that we incorporate that answer is we have a survey that's in our training materials, and it's a QR code. And so we invite on their last day of training, we invite our new family members, as we call them, to complete. It's a very quick survey and literally just asks them, did you get orientation? Did you have a trainer? You know, do you have any feedback on your training? And that's a way that we're able to check and validate. The other thing that we do is incorporating in our restaurant visit walk. We ask our above store leaders they have to fill out a couple of quick questions, right? They're looking at other things too, right? Were the restrooms clean and were the fries made right? But they're also looking at our training materials present and accessible. Interview a new family member. How many trainers are in the restaurant? And so just a couple of really quick questions that provide us with some checks and balances, because I think ultimately what's about is keeping it top of mind, right? Your leaders have to prioritize it in order for your restaurants or your hotels to prioritize that those things get done. The other question we have here is, what things do you like to think of when addressing onboarding employee? Is it customer satisfaction, employee retention, consistent performance? What things do you like to think of when addressing onboarding the employee?
Yes, 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 and yes.
Agreed.
Okay.
I think again, back to what we do is culture is really huge for us. And we really think that is the first impression that needs to be made.
Mhm.
I mean, all the other tactical things, are pretty common everywhere, right? They're important things. But again, it kind of goes back to what Kate said too, is it's just, who is this new person? What is important to them?
Yes.
And what's going to make them feel happy? So again, culture is huge for us right from the get-go.
James, I would just add to that, because I know Raising Cane's culture it's so much more than just words on a page, right? And
Yep.
same at WHATABURGER. So it's not only talking them through it, but showing them. And so two things, Isabel, that are crucial to our orientations. The first one is, what are the things that everybody needs to know how to do? We incorporate that into orientation. And so we pair someone up with a trainer and teach them how to run food and how to clean a restroom and, some very basic things. It's not only showing that our training is going to be hands-on, but then they become an individual contributor from that first day. And nothing feels better than knowing how to do something, right? And
Absolutely.
just a quick story. We had someone on their second day of training, and the restaurant got really busy, right? And what happens to training when things get really busy? It gets shoved to the side, to the point where the general manager was running food. And so this person on their second day of training went, I learned how to run food yesterday, right? And so they jumped in and started helping. And at the end, the GM was saying, oh, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And they were so proud of themselves, because in that moment, they didn't just stand to the side like, oh, twiddle my thumbs, wait for things to die down. They were able to contribute, and then training got back on track. But I said two things. The second thing is we also get hands-on, even if they're not going to work in production. We go back and we make 2 of our signature burgers with them. So the manager makes one perfect start to finish, and then they have to make one perfect start to finish. And it's not so much about, hey, there needs to be, this much onion or a bit in every bite, but it's about showing them what the pride and the love that we pour into the food that we make, right? Hey, did you know that these buns come from Gunther and they're delivered fresh every day, and that they're only toasted once that order comes in, and all of those little things. And the reason that they make 2, by the way, is because they get to enjoy one. And then we say, hey, who's picking you up today? Oh, your sister? Great. Here, take this home to your sister. And we're starting to build that community outside of our 4 walls. And so we really want to show them. And by the way, I think that might also help to answer that previous question, right? How do you recruit in a competitive market? So thanks for letting me have the floor for a second. Obviously, we're all equally very passionate about all
that.
I've only worked with
I'm gonna
WHATABURGER
just
for 6
sign out.
months.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing everybody in Orlando, but it was great. But I got a 2 o'clock now.
Well,
thank
you
you
know what?
guys.
I bet we all do. So what a great time to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for joining. What wonderful questions. Again, don't forget to email Tara. We'd love to pick up this conversation in Orlando, and we certainly hope to see you there. Thanks to all of our panelists. You were wonderful. And this recording will be available at the end of the day. See you all
Okay.
later.
Bye, everybody.
See you in
Thanks.
Orlando.